Okay, thank you, Mr. Desi, for coming out to the show today. I'm going to put this series of informative interviews on my channel at Note Wealth Wisdom, YouTube channel, and it's called Retirement Rescue. And I have a very smart fellow with us today by the name of Mr. Desi Arnaz, who I have a great amount of respect for in investing knowledge that he has accumulated here. So, Desi, take it away. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Well, thank you, David. I really appreciate you having me on your program today. Give me an opportunity to talk about something that I love talking about, and that is how to use what I like to call the very best kept secret in real estate to strengthen and bolster your personal retirement account so that when you get to your golden years, they really are golden. Because otherwise, they could wind up being more like, what's a cheap metal? Tin. They could wind up being a 10, right?
We want gold.
Yeah, we want gold, right? So yes. Thank you, though. I appreciate you having me here.
Well, can you expand on that a little bit? What we're talking about today is mortgage note investing. Can you give my viewers a little explanation in your language of just what exactly mortgage note investment is?
Sure, sure. Um, do you mind if I give a little bit of background so that it has some context?
Absolutely. Please do.
Okay. So guys, for since 1980, I've been in the real estate space. I started actually investing in 1982, but in 1980, I got my real estate broker's license. And my goal at that time, David, was always the same. It was always to try to create a source of passive income that would take care of me for the rest of my life. At that time, I was just pretty close to 30 years old around that time that I got into the mortgage note business, right? 27, 28. And my thinking at that time was, look, if I got mortgages with a 15-year mortgage on them, if I bought a bunch of real estate, I'm sorry, and I took mortgages from the banks with 15-year mortgages on them, I figured by the time I was 45 years old, all of my rental properties would all have free and clear titles, right? No more mortgages, because in 15 years, everything would be paid off. And that was my plan to try to create some passive income. And, while it seems good on paper, it just didn't work out that way for several reasons. One is that there's too much outside of your control in the world. You know what I mean? For me, and the economy kind of destroyed me in the 80s, destroyed me in the sense that I had too many tenants that were getting hurt by the fact that we were in a recession and they were losing their jobs and they couldn't afford to make the payments. And so I found myself not being able to get the kind of rents that I wanted for my houses and all that. So fast forward, I decided along the way, somewhere in there, I decided rather than trying to just be a landlord, I started flipping houses. And so that's what I did. I still had some rentals. I think I was holding on to about 28 28 rental properties, but I started flipping some houses because I felt I could get just some big chunks of cash instead of passive income from rents. I could get some big chunks of cash, and then I could just go pay cash for some houses. And I made a lot of money flipping houses, a lot. Flipping houses during the 90s, during the 2000s, right? That's millions of dollars. But I still got destroyed in 2008 when the economy tanked.
Many of us
I
did.
got
Yeah.
destroyed. I owned a mortgage company at that time, and I had about 100 employees, and I spent all of my money, all of my life savings trying to keep that business open so
Right.
that I didn't have to lay off my people. But at the end of the day, I had to close down the company anyway, and I literally had gone through my life savings, got rid of all my rental properties, and I had even used up all of my retirement account. And so my retirement account needed a rescue. That's
Right.
where I was. And that's when I discovered mortgage note investing, Dave, in 2013. I actually discovered mortgage note investing. And what happened for me was on the 4th of July. I still remember this. On the 4th of July, 2013, I was up early because my wife and I were going to go to the beach here in San Diego, where I live. We are going to spend the day hang out at the beach. And I was surfing the internet and I came across a guy, a younger guy, who said, "Hey, I own the mortgages on 400 condos in Florida."
Yeah.
And that kind of intrigued me because even though I had owned a mortgage company and a Century 21 franchise, actually I had owned two different mortgage companies over the previous 30 years, and Century 21 franchise too. I didn't really grasp the fact that I could own someone's mortgage. It just hadn't really sunk into my brain. And so when he said that, I thought that sounds interesting. So I started looking into it. And as it turns out, yeah, you sure can. You can own someone's mortgage. And today, that's what I do for cash flow. And so basically, the way that it works, to answer your first question, is if you understand how people buy a house when they don't pay cash, then it'll all make sense. So here's how it would work. When someone wants to buy a house, let's say they want to buy $100,000 house, and they don't have $100,000 in cash to pay for it. What they'll typically do is they'll go to a bank and they'll say, "Okay, I'd like to borrow money to buy that house." And the bank will say, "Well, you need to have a down payment, right? You need to put some skin in the game." And so most banks want you to have 10 to 20% down, right? That's what we all know.
Right.
So let's just say the bank says, you put down 10%, so that would be $10,000, and we will loan you 90%, which is $90,000. And you have to agree to pay us back, and I'll just make up a number, $1,000 a month for the next 20 years.
Sure.
Right? It can be 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, but that's the deal. Pay us back $1,000 a month for the next 20 years. So that's the deal. So now this person says, "I agree to that." And so the bank will say to that person, "Okay, so you need to sign two documents to memorialize our agreement." One is called a promissory note, which is in which basically the borrower who's borrowing the $90,000, they promise to repay the bank the $90,000. So that's a promissory note.
Right.
The second document that they need to sign is called a mortgage. A mortgage is a document that basically gives the bank the right to repossess the house if these people don't honor the promissory note. So in other words, if you don't make your mortgage payments every month to the bank, then the bank can take your house. So those are the two primary documents that we're talking about today. So when I say investing in mortgage notes, what I'm really talking about is literally buying the mortgage and the note that someone has against their house, but I buy it not from the homeowner, I buy it from the bank that carried back the $90,000. Does that make sense?
It does to me.
Okay.
Having been a previous loan officer, I wished I'd have thought about how many loans I closed about just investing in 5 of them. And it just went right over my head.
Yeah.
Just
And I owned a mortgage company with
right.
103 employees, and it went right over my head too. So I figure most people probably don't know about this. And that's why I called it earlier the best kept secret in real estate.
Right. And it is. It is.
Yeah.
Well, can you explain a couple differences between, say, investing in a piece of property and investing in a mortgage note? How you see it?
Sure. Well, yeah, I certainly can. There's some key differences. There's a lot of differences, but there's some key differences. One of the key differences is when you invest in a mortgage note, you don't own the real estate. And so since you don't own the real estate, you're not responsible for the property or the property taxes or dealing with tenants
Right.
or making repairs. None of that's your responsibility. It dawned on me after I got into the mortgage note investing space that when you think about it, real estate that has a mortgage on it actually creates two streams of income, right? One of those streams of income is rent, let's say, right? So like if you're a landlord, you're collecting rent every month, but the bank is also collecting a mortgage payment from you every month when you're the landlord, right? So you're collecting the bank's money for them and then you pass it on. And basically by investing in mortgage notes, it lets us cut out the middleman. We are the bank. So every month I collect these mortgage payments from the people that own the real estate. So the difference is, instead of me dealing with tenants that are flaky sometimes, right? They
Right.
can be. I'm actually dealing with homeowners that have pride of ownership. They want to keep their property. They have money invested in the real estate, so they have skin in the game again, as I mentioned earlier.
Right.
And so that's a key difference, is it's much more secure. Another difference between that and being like buying real estate to just be a landlord is the lenders, the bank has priority in the event of anything going sideways. So, for example, if there were a fire and the house burned to the ground, okay?
Right.
And the insurance company says, hey, here's $100,000 to replace the house. The first thing that happens is, before the homeowner gets that $100,000, guess who gets their $90,000 out of that deal first?
The bank.
The bank, the lenders. And I've already had that happen once, where I was paid immediately because one of the houses that I financed actually did burn to the ground completely. And so I was paid off by the insurance company. Guess who's the last one to be paid? The owner.
Borrower.
Okay. Yeah. The person that borrowed the money. Right. They're the last ones to be paid. They're the last ones to be paid. Appraisers are paid first. Real estate people are paid first. Title companies paid first. Attorneys are paid first. If there's anything left, then it goes to the person that actually owns the house. So for me, knowing that I could get cash flow from real estate without the headaches of being a landlord, and I could get paid first, that was enough for me to say, okay, I've been on the wrong side of this real estate table for a long time.
Absolutely.
And when I figured that out, my life changed.
Now, I've heard that there's three possible outcomes investing in mortgage notes. Could you go into those briefly, and we'll kind of wrap it up with that?
Sure. Yeah, there's three possible outcomes. If you think about it, and I'm going to just kind of preface it by saying, forget about notes for just a second. We'll come right back to it. But if someone owes you money, Dave, let's just say your buddy owes you loan him $1,000, right? He needed to borrow $1,000. One of three things is going to happen. Either he's going to pay you back like he promised, when he promised, right? Or he's going to pay you back before he promised, or he's not going to pay you back. Okay. Right. I mean, that's about it, right? That's it.
Usually the case.
Yeah, that's it. So when I invest in a mortgage note, basically I have a contract with that homeowner, the property owner, that says they're going to pay me back this $90,000 that they borrowed from that bank, and I bought the mortgage from the bank. So they're going to pay me back now the $90,000. And they're either going to pay me back like they agreed, maybe they'll sell the house or refinance the house and pay me off early, or maybe they just won't pay me. And here's what happens in each of those three scenarios. Now, if they're going to pay me back like they said they would, and remember in my scenario, I said you borrowed $90,000 and you're paying $1,000 a month for 20 years. Remember that scenario?
Yes, sir.
So if I buy that mortgage from the bank and they pay me back like they said, then 20 years is 240 months. They're going to pay me $1,000 a month for 20 years. They're going to pay me $240,000, right? You get that? Right. Simple math. $1,000 a month for 20 years. Now remember, I bought a $90,000 note, but they're going to pay me back $240,000.
Right.
How's that for me? Is that pretty good?
The math doesn't lie.
The math is awesome, brother. Let me tell you. But sometimes things happen, Dave, and people pay off early.
Right.
So let's just say that they pay me $1,000 a month for 5 years. And then they decide, hey, we need a bigger house, because that can happen too, right? We need a bigger house, so we're going to sell this house. So they pay me $1,000 a month for 5 years, so that's $60,000 that they've already paid me, correct?
Right.
5 years worth of payments. But since most of their payment is interest, only a little of it is principal, their balance has probably dropped down from 90,000 to, let's just say, 85,000.
Right.
Okay. So they've already paid me 60,000 along the way. Now they still owe me 85,000. Right. So when you add those two numbers together, I'm collecting $145,000 in 5 years on a $90,000 investment.
Correct.
That's not too shabby either, is
No, it isn't.
it? So I'm doing all right if they pay me like they said. I'm doing really good if they pay me off early. Not bad.
Right.
See why I got so attracted to this? Well, when I started looking at this years ago, my first concern was, well, what if they don't pay you? Now what? Right? That's what had me a little nervous. Well, here's how that works. When you bought this house, in my example, I said that the house was $100,000. You put down $10,000, the bank loaned you $90,000, right? That's
Right.
the way this deal was set up. So 5 years later, is it possible the house might be worth more than 100?
Very possible.
Very possible. What can we say? Maybe 110, 115?
I would say.
Okay. So let's just say it's worth $115,000. 5 years later, it's worth 115. However, instead of paying me off early, let's say 5 years in, these folks, the main breadwinner gets killed in a car accident or something.
Right.
And the person that's the survivor cannot afford the payments anymore. So they stop making payments. I mean, anything can happen. They could get a divorce. Anything can happen.
Sickness. Yeah.
Yeah. Sickness, right? So 5 years in, instead of selling the house, they stop making payments for a different reason because something tragic happened. So they've already paid me $60,000 before they stopped making payments. That's the first 5 years. However, now, because they've stopped making payments, remember that document I said that they had to sign? It's called a mortgage. And it says basically, if you don't make your payments, the bank can take your house.
Yes.
Well, guess what? I am the bank.
You are the bank.
So if they stop making payments, now I can take the property from them. I can take the real estate.
Right.
So in my example, let's say the real estate's worth $115,000. I go through the foreclosure process. I'll just go tell you that. That's going to cost me about $3,000. Okay.
Right.
And I'm going to hire an attorney to do it. I don't have to do anything except write a check for $3,000 to the lawyer. And my part's done. Then the lawyer's going to go through the foreclosure process. And then when it's all done, which takes anywhere from 2 months to about a year in most states, okay?
Right.
But when it's all done, I'm going to own that house. At that point, I can do anything I want to do with it, David. I could move into it. I can rent it out. I can do whatever. But let's just say I offer it for sale. And remember, we said it's worth $115,000 now, okay?
Okay.
And it's been 5 years. These people only owe me $85,000, right? We had come up with that before. They only owe me $85,000. So if I was to subtract 85,000 from 15,000, that tells me, let's see here, 5, 11. So that's $30,000 in equity that's in that property right there, right? It's the difference between 115,000. I can sell it for 115,000. So if I sell that property for $115,000, I subtract out what I paid my lawyer. Let's say I paid my lawyer $3,000. And let's say I paid a real estate agent $6,000 to sell the house for me. So that's $9,000. You with me?
Yes.
Okay, so I got $115,000 that I sold the house for. And I spent $9,000 to get the house sold and to get it foreclosed. So that leaves me with $106,000 in my pocket. Now remember, I've already collected $60,000 before that happens, right?
Right.
Now I'll collect another $106,000. So altogether, I've collected $166,000. And I don't know what that return on my investment is, but it's pretty good.
Pretty
I
decent.
invested $90,000 and I now have $166,000.
Right.
Right? Even after paying all my expenses, I got $166,000. Now, suppose that house went up to $150,000. I'd have a lot more. Right? Now, if the house went down, and this was one of the things that I thought about too. Well, what if the house didn't go up? Suppose it went down. Like if we're in the middle of a recession. So it was $100,000 5 years ago, but today it's only worth $90,000.
Right.
That could happen too. That did happen in 2008, remember?
Right.
So if that happens, how do I deal with that? Well, I don't have to sell the house, do I? I own it. I don't have a mortgage on it because I own the house.
Right.
So I can just rent that house out. And, a house like that might rent for $1,500 a month. That wouldn't be unrealistic.
At that point, you could rent it out until the market turns around.
Yes, exactly. So I just rent it out for 3, 4 years, and then the market comes back, and I can sell it for $120,000 in 3, 4, 5 years. But in the meantime, if it's let's say it's 5 years, I'm collecting $1,500 a month in rent for 60 months. That's what, $75,000, something like that's $90,000, I think, is what that comes out to be. That's another $90,000.
That's not a bad deal either.
Not a bad deal either. Once I saw this, David, I understood why banks don't flip houses. And I understood why banks don't buy rental houses and don't build subdivisions and all that stuff. Banks are in the money business. And I like to say it this way, the money is in the money business.
That's
Once
it.
I understood that, Dave, and I'll just share this with you, not trying to brag or anything else, but once I understood that, I changed my life. Because
Right.
remember, I said during 2008, I lost everything, right? I
Many
lost it
people
all. I
did,
told you
yes.
that. I lost it all. And when I found out about this business in 2013, I saw a light at the end of the tunnel because I was already 60 years old. And I'm thinking, what am I going to do? My whole retirement was gone, literally gone. I had no retirement. Now I understand that retirement is not about having a bunch of money in the bank. Retirement is about having cash flow. Cash flow. Today, I have more than 100, probably about 140, 150 mortgage notes that I'm collecting. I collect every single month. People pay their
Right.
mortgages to me. Literally, tens of thousands of dollars are sent to me every single month.
Right.
Okay. And you may be saying, your people may be asking, how do you do that? How do you do that? Well, we can cover that in the next episode if you like, Dave,
Right.
because that's a whole nother story. Okay.
It is. We
But
don't have time
yes,
for that one yet.
yeah, it's absolutely possible. And I did it starting with no money at all. So, you know, I'm just telling you guys, today I am officially a millionaire. I'll never have to work again another day of my life if I don't choose to. I'm on this call here for you, Dave, because I'm just trying to spread the word.
All right. I
People
appreciate
don't
it.
know what they don't know, just like you and I didn't know.
I didn't know.
You were a loan officer. I owned a mortgage company. I didn't know.
Right over my head.
Yeah, yeah, I didn't know.
Right.
See, so um, for me, this is almost a ministry for me, Dave. I really feel like I can help people change their lives. And we call it retirement. You call your show Retirement Rescue. This is how they can rescue their retirement. It's pretty darn amazing. And you don't need a lot of money to start. You can even start with no money. But it's, if you got a little money, you got a head start on me.
Right.
Right?
Well,
Got a head start on me if you got a little bit of money because I had none. Um, so anyway, there you go. I hope that answers your question.
well, I appreciate your candor and I appreciate you. Means a lot to be able to have you on here in this format and speak your mind. And I think people need to hear it, and I'm happy to bring it. And I want them to know about you, and I want them to know that there is a rescue for your retirement if you choose to pursue it.
Yes.
Happy to help um,
There you
transform
go.
that in any way I can.
Yeah. And
Thank
so, yeah, people, well, obviously, people can reach out to you, I'm sure, if they have questions and stuff like that, right?
you. Absolutely. My contact info will be in my link on my channel, and you can set up a time to call or a Zoom meeting, and we can just talk and see where you're at and what your goals are. There's no pressure.
Yeah. 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 What I like about you, Dave, is I know you don't have you don't have some coaching program that you're trying to sell or anything like that. You're just talking from the heart, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love to see you giving back too. I love it. I love it.
Well,
But thank you, Dave, for having me on. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate your time, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Very good, sir.
All right.
We'll see you
Thank
then.
you. Thank you, Desi.
Mhm.